The jungle planet was quiet after the storm. Rainwater still dripped from large purple leaves. The sky was gray, and the air was thick with fog. Strange birds with glowing feathers flew between the trees, singing soft songs. Tamar, a human explorer, stepped carefully over the wet roots. His boots were muddy, and his brown jacket was torn. He had crash-landed on this unknown planet 3 days ago. His ship, the Starlight Sparrow, was damaged and out of power. Now he was looking for parts, shelter, or maybe someone who could help. As he walked through the trees, he heard a soft cry. He paused. The jungle was filled with noises, but this one sounded different. It was close. He followed the sound, brushing leaves aside. Soon, he reached a small clearing. There, lying near a fallen tree, was a tall figure. She was not human. Her skin was a light blue color, and she wore armor made of green crystal and cloth. She had long silver hair that touched the ground. Her eyes were closed, and she was breathing hard. Tamar rushed forward. "Hey, are you okay?" The alien woman opened her eyes slowly. They were violet, bright, and sharp. She looked at Tamar, confused. Her voice was weak. "You are not Fulani." "I'm human," Tamar said. "I won't hurt you. You're hurt. Let me help." He knelt beside her. Her leg was bleeding from a deep cut. Carefully, he took out his small medical kit. He used a healing patch and wrapped her leg. She watched him the whole time without saying anything. After a while, she sat up slowly, leaning on his arm. "Why do you help me?" Tamar shrugged. "It's the right thing to do." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she placed her hand over her heart and spoke clearly. Though her voice was still soft, "You owe me now, human." Tamar blinked. "Wait. What? I was in season. You saved me during the storm. My life is yours. I'm yours." Tamar stood up quickly, holding his hands out. Hold on. I didn't ask for that. I was just helping." But the alien woman stood up too, though her leg was weak. She bowed her head slightly. "I am Vera of the Fulani. I owe you a life bond." Tamar sighed. "Okay, Vera. Nice to meet you. But humans don't do this whole owning thing. Let's just say we're friends." Vera tilted her head. "Friends? Yes, friends help each other." "That's what I did." Vera thought for a moment, then gave a small nod. "Then I will be your friend. But still, you saved me during the season. That means something." Tamar had no idea what season meant, but he didn't want to argue. "Fine. Let's just get out of this jungle before another storm comes." He helped Vera walk. The ground was slippery, and strange animals watched from the trees, but nothing attacked them. After a while, they found a dry cave beside a hill. Inside, it was cool and quiet. Tamar started a small fire with his portable lighter. Vera sat across from him, watching closely. "You are different from what I was taught," she said. Tomar smiled. "Let me guess, you were told humans are weak and loud, yes?" Vera said with a straight face. "But not weak, only strange." Tamar chuckled. "Fair enough." They sat in silence for a bit. Tamar handed her a food bar. She sniffed it, then took a small bite. Her face scrunched up. "It's not poison," Tamar said, laughing. "But it's not tasty either." Vera swallowed and gave him a serious look. "Tell me, Tamar, why did you come to this planet?" "My ship crashed. I was exploring the sector, looking for new life, new cultures. I didn't know anyone lived here." Vera nodded slowly. "The Fulani do not like outsiders, but I was sent to scout. I got lost in the storm. I was weak. The season makes us weak." Tamar leaned forward. "What is this season thing you keep mentioning?" Vera's cheeks turned a bit purple, which Tamar guessed was her version of blushing. "It is the time of great emotion for my kind. Once every 10 years, we feel everything: stronger joy, anger, fear, even affection. That is why bonds made during the season are honored forever. You saved me. You were kind. That means everything." Tamar rubbed the back of his neck. "I didn't know. I wasn't trying to create a bond." Vera looked into the fire. "It does not matter what you tried. It matters what you did. But I will not force your ways to change. I will follow you. until you say otherwise, Tamar sighed. He didn't know what to think. One minute he was alone and lost. The next he had a loyal alien companion. But Vera didn't seem dangerous. In fact, she seemed honest and proud. All right, Tamar said finally. We stick together, at least until we find a way off this planet. Vera gave a small smile. Yes, Tamar, we walked together. Outside, the rain began again. The cave felt warm, and for the first time in days, Tamar felt safe. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but he was no longer alone. And somewhere deep in her heart, Vera believed the stars had brought them together for a reason. Morning light touched the edge of the cave. Small rays shined through cracks in the stone wall. Outside, the jungle was quiet. Rainwater dripped gently from the leaves. A few glowing insects floated in the air. Tamar stretched his arms and sat up. His back hurt from sleeping on the cave floor, but at least he was dry and alive. He looked across the fire. Vera was already awake, sitting with her legs crossed. She was sharpening a stick with a stone. Her silver hair was tied back, and her eyes were focused. Morning, Tamar said. Vera gave a small nod. The rain has stopped. We should move soon. Tamar stood and packed his things. He checked the map device from his belt. It blinked red still. No signal. The ship's location was saved, but it was far away, on the other side of a wide forest. We have to head east, Tamar said, pointing. That way leads back to my ship. Vera stood and adjusted her armor. Her injured leg still looked weak, but she didn't complain. I will follow. As they began walking, Tamar glanced at her. You don't have to follow me everywhere, you know. Vera looked surprised. I said I would. You saved me. I am yours. Tamar sighed. Back to that again. She stopped walking. Do you not want my company? Tamar paused. He looked at her serious face. She wasn't joking. Her eyes held something quiet and true. I don't mind your company, he said. I just don't understand your rules. Vera nodded slowly. That is fair. Let us walk and share knowledge. They moved through the jungle, talking as they walked. Vera explained that Fulani people lived by ancient traditions. Loyalty, honor, and personal bonds were the center of their culture. During the season, their emotions became strong, and any promise made during that time was considered sacred. When you healed me, Vera said, you showed trust. You saw me not as an enemy, but as someone worth saving. That is why I gave you the bond. Tamar thought quietly. In human culture, we help people just because it's the right thing to do. No bond, no vow, just kindness. Vera was silent for a while. Then she said, that is also a noble way. They crossed a shallow river. The water was cold, and the rocks were slippery. Tamar helped Vera across. When she almost slipped, he caught her arm. Vera looked at him with a soft smile. You keep doing that. What? Tamar asked, helping. He smiled back. It's becoming a habit. As they walked deeper into the forest, they heard strange sounds, howls, whistles, rustling leaves. Vera stayed alert. She used her sharpened stick to move branches aside and mark trees. She had survival training, and it showed. Tamar was impressed. You're good at this. I was trained as a scout, Vera said. We learned to travel alone, survive in the wild, and find our way back. But this planet is unfamiliar. You mean you're not from here? Vera shook her head. This is a border world. My people sent me to explore and report. But the storm came before I could return. Tamar looked up at the sky. Maybe fate put us both here at the same time. Vera glanced at him. Perhaps. They stopped near a large tree with glowing roots. Tamar checked the map again. If we keep walking for 2 more days, we'll reach the ridge. I can contact my ship's emergency signal from there. Vera looked around. We must be careful. This part of the forest feels watched. Tamar nodded. I agree. That night, they camped near the tree. Tamar lit a small fire. He boiled water from the river and shared more food bars. Vera pulled out a small crystal from her armor and placed it in front of her. It glowed softly, changing colors. What's that? Tamar asked. A memory stone, Vera said. It holds stories from my family. When I feel lost, I listen. The stone played soft music, like wind through trees. A calm voice spoke in Vera's language, telling an old tale. Tamar didn't understand the words, but the sound was peaceful. Vera closed her eyes for a moment, then looked at Tamar. What do humans do when they are lost? Tamar smiled. We talk or sing. Sometimes we joke around. It helps us feel less afraid. Vera raised an eyebrow. You're afraid? Of course, Tamar said. This planet is wild. My ship is broken, and I don't know if I'll get home. Vera thought for a moment. I was afraid to, but I didn't want to show it. Tamar leaned back against a rock. Well, we're together now. Maybe that makes it easier. Tamar tried some of the food and laughed when it surprised his tongue. Vera laughed too, her usual serious face softened by joy. The villagers told stories of their history, of great explorers and warriors, and of the seasons that shaped their lives. Tamar listened carefully, learning the rhythm of their world. After the feast, the elder took Tamar aside. You must understand, Tamar. The bond between you and Vera is sacred. It is not just a rule, but a connection that changes both your lives. Tamar nodded slowly. I want to respect that, but I hope we can learn from each other. The elder smiled. That is the way of the Thalani. You have my blessing. Later, Tamar and Vera walked through the village under the stars. The night was peaceful, the air cool and fresh. Vera looked at Tamar and said quietly, You make this easier for me. Tamar smiled. You make it easier for me too. They stopped by a small pond, the water reflecting the glittering sky. Do you think humans and Thalani can truly understand each other? Tamar asked. Vera thought for a moment. Yes, if we listen and respect, and if we laugh. Tamar laughed softly. I think we're off to a good start. Vera smiled, then teasingly said, So, do you still think I own you? Tamar grinned. No, I think we walk side by side now. They both laughed together, their voices mixing with the night sounds. The bond between them was growing stronger not because of tradition, but because of friendship and trust. And for the first time since the crash, Tamar felt hopeful. The sun was high in the sky when Tamar and Vera woke to a strange sound. It was loud and mechanical, a humming like nothing they had heard before on the jungle planet. Birds scattered from the trees, and the ground seemed to vibrate slightly under their feet. Tamar stood and looked toward the horizon. There, bright silver shapes moved through the air. Hovercraft's small flying ships approached fast, kicking up dust and leaves as they came. Vera's eyes narrowed. Those are not friends. Tamar's heart beat faster. He had hoped the nearby Thalani village would be safe, but now danger seemed close. The hovercrafts landed near the village, and tall Thalani warriors stepped out. Their armor was darker and more aggressive-looking than the village's peaceful clothing. They moved with confidence, speaking in sharp voices. One warrior stepped forward. He was taller than Vera and wore a helmet decorated with red markings. His eyes glowed fiercely. Vera, he called, you have betrayed our ways by bringing a human here. Your bond is false. Vera stood tall. My bond is real. Tamar saved me during the season. He is my partner. The leader laughed coldly. You have been fooled by a weak creature. Humans are enemies, not partners. Tamar felt the tension rise. He stepped forward. I'm not your enemy. I came here to survive, not to fight. The leader sneered. Survival does not excuse your foolishness. You will leave this place or face the consequences. Vera looked at Tamar. We must prove our bond. The right of harmony. Tamar was confused. What is that? Vera explained quickly. A test, the ancient way to show truth and trust between partners. If we pass, no one can deny our bond. The leader smiled darkly. Very well, you will face the right. The villagers gathered, forming a large circle around Tamar and Vera. The elder from the village stepped forward. The right of harmony is a sacred test. It challenges mind, heart, and spirit. If they succeed, peace will come. Tamar took a deep breath. He looked at Vera, who nodded. Together, they stepped into the center of the circle. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted, and they were inside a large maze made of glowing vines and stones. The maze was alive. The walls pulsed with soft light. Strange sounds echoed around them. The air smelled of fresh rain and flowers. Vera took Tamar's hand. We must trust each other. The maze will test our bond. Tamar squeezed her hand. I'm ready. They moved carefully through the maze. The first test was a puzzle. A wall of glowing symbols blocked their path. Vera studied the symbols. These are from my people's language. We must arrange them to tell a story. Tamar looked at the symbols and tried to remember shapes he had seen in her crystal memories. Together, they moved stones to form the story of the seasons, the times of change and growth. The wall glowed brightly and moved aside. They stepped forward. Next. The maze tested their courage. Shadows formed shapes of fierce dark forests, falling stars. Loud noises. Tamar felt a cold fear in his chest. But Vera whispered, "Hold my hand. We face this together." They walked through the shadows, speaking calm words and reminding each other of their strengths. When they reached the other side, the shadows disappeared. Finally, the maze tested their hearts. A quiet room appeared with two mirrors facing each other. Tamar and Vera looked into the mirrors and saw their reflections, but also their feelings. Tamar saw himself as alone and afraid, but also strong and kind. Vera saw herself as proud but lonely and ready to trust. They both smiled softly. Tamar spoke, "I don't want to be alone anymore." Vera answered, "Neither do I." The mirrors shimmered, and a soft light surrounded them. When it faded, they were outside the maze again. The villagers cheered. The leader lowered his head in respect. "You have passed the rite of harmony," the elder said. "Your bond is true." Tamar looked at Vera. "We did it." Vera smiled. Together, the rival warriors left quietly. Peace returned to the village. That night, the stars shone brighter than ever. Tamar and Vera sat together by the fire, feeling stronger than before. "I never thought I would face something like this," Tamar said. "Neither did I," Vera replied. "But we learned that trust and friendship can break barriers." Tamar looked at the sky. "Maybe this is only the beginning." Vera nodded. "The season changes everything, even us." They smiled, ready to face whatever came next. Side by side, the days after the rite of harmony were peaceful. The Fulani villagers no longer looked at Tamar with doubt. Instead, they welcomed him warmly. Children followed him curiously. Elders invited him to listen to old stories. For the first time since he had landed on this strange world, Tamar felt like he belonged. Vera remained by his side. They trained together, walked through the jungle trails, and talked under the stars. The bond between them had grown stronger. It was no longer just about tradition or season, it was about understanding and friendship. One morning, as the sun rose over the trees, a soft beeping came from Tamar's belt. He pulled out his communicator. A message flashed across the screen. "Earth vessel approaching orbit. Rescue mission confirmed." Tamar stared at the words, then looked at Vera. "They found me. A human ship is coming." Vera's eyes showed no surprise. "I expected this. Your people do not forget their own." He smiled. "It's strange. I thought I'd feel only relief. But now, I feel something else." "What do you feel?" Vera asked gently. Tomar paused. "I feel like I'm leaving something important." Behind Vera said nothing for a moment. Then she turned toward the village. "You are not leaving everything, Tamar, only returning to part of yourself." That day, the elder of Relis invited them to the central hall. The room was round, with glowing stones lining the walls. Symbols were carved into the floor. It was the sacred place where bonds were honored and remembered. The elder stood before them. "The rite has been passed, and your bond is now part of our village memory. But there is one final step." Tamar raised his brow. "Another test?" "No," the elder said. "A choice." The elder walked to a stone pedestal. Upon it lay the crystal pendants, each shaped like a small star. "These are soul markers," the elder explained. "They are worn by those who choose unity. If you wear them together, your bond is honored by both worlds." Tamar looked at Vera. She said nothing, but her eyes spoke clearly. She would not force him. The The choice was his. He stepped forward and picked up one of the pendants. It sparkled gently in his hand. Then he looked into Vera's eyes and smiled. I choose to wear it, Tamar said. Vera smiled softly, picked up the second pendant, and placed it around her neck. So do I. The villagers clapped their hands gently. A peaceful hum filled the room. The light grew brighter. The elder spoke once more. Now you are not just bonded. You are marked by choice. That evening, Tamar and Vera sat near the pond again. Fireflies danced across the water, and soft music played in the distance. Your ship will arrive tomorrow, Vera said. Tamar nodded. Yes, they'll take me home. There was a long silence between them. Tamar finally spoke. What will you do, Vera? I will continue to serve my people, she said. But now, I understand more. I will tell them of you, of your kindness, of what I've learned. Tamar turned to her. Will we ever meet again? I do not know, Vera answered. But I believe the stars bring those together who are meant to meet. Tamar looked at the pendant on his chest. Then maybe this bond will guide us again. Vera gave a small smile. Yes, they sat in silence for a while. The fire crackled gently. Strange lights moved in the trees. The jungle night was full of soft sounds. But it didn't feel so dangerous anymore. After some time, Tamar asked, Why did you trust me so quickly? Vera looked into the fire. Because when I was weak, you were strong but gentle. Many would have left me. You stayed. Tamar didn't know what to say. He wasn't used to people seeing him that way. Most of his life, he worked alone, always the outsider, always moving. I guess I'm glad I stayed, he said softly. Vera turned to him. Then I am glad too. The night passed quietly. The fire burned low. Tamar fell asleep first, while Vera kept watch, and in that quiet space, something small and real began to grow, a bond not of rules or tradition, but of understanding. The morning sky was orange with streaks of silver clouds. Birds with long tails flew above the tall trees, making soft musical calls. Tamar and Vera continued their journey through the jungle. The map device still blinked red, but Tamar hoped that soon the signal would return. They were getting closer to the high ridge. We should reach the hill by tomorrow, Tamar said. Stepping over a mossy rock, Vera followed, her sharp eyes watching the shadows. The forest grows thicker. I can feel a strange presence. Tamar looked around. The plants here were larger, and the light was dim. Leaves brushed against their shoulders as they passed. Let's stay alert. They pushed forward, moving slowly. Vera walked ahead, clearing a safe path with her stick. Her injured leg was healing, but she still limped a little. Tamar kept checking behind them, just in case. Suddenly, the ground under Tamar's foot gave way. Ho! He fell through a patch of leaves and dropped into a deep hole. Dirt and vines surrounded him. He hit the bottom hard, but rolled to soften the fall. Tamar. Vera shouted from above. I'm okay. He called up, just a little trapped. Vera leaned over the edge and threw down a rope made of strong jungle vine. Hold on. Tamar grabbed it, and with Vera's help, he climbed out. He was dirty, but not badly hurt. He looked at her and smiled. Thanks for the rescue. Again, Vera gave a slight grin. Now we are even. Tamar laughed. I doubt that. They kept walking, now more careful. As the sun moved higher, they reached a strange part of the forest. Giant trees stood in circles. The air was quiet to quiet. Vera raised her hand. Stop. Something is wrong. Tamar looked around. Where are the animals? No sounds. No movement. Vera whispered, This is a silent zone. We must leave quickly. They turned, but the path behind them was gone. The trees had shifted. What had been a clear trail was now thick jungle. Tamar checked his device. The screen blinked. Signal lost. We're lost, he said. Vera narrowed her eyes. No, we are not lost. The forest is shifting. What do you mean? This is a living maze. My people speak of places like this rare and old. The trees move. The land hides paths. It tests the heart. Tamar looked around. That's not great news. Vera took a deep breath. We must stay calm. The forest reads emotion. If we panic, it will twist more. Okay, Tamar said. Then let's stay calm and figure this out. They walked forward again, slowly and with care. Vera touched trees and listened to the wind. Tamar noticed strange patterns on the ground like symbols drawn by roots. After a while, they reached a pool of clear water. At the center was a glowing stone. This is a guiding place, Vera said. We must speak to the forest. Tamar raised an eyebrow. Speak. How? Not with words, Vera said. With truth. Vera stepped toward the stone. She placed her hand on it. A soft light surrounded her. I am Vera, she said softly, daughter of Thalani. I walk in peace. I seek the path with an open heart. Then she looked at Tamar. Now you? Tamar hesitated. He stepped forward, placed his hand on the stone, and said, I'm Tamar, a human. I'm trying to get home. I mean no harm. I just want to find my way. The stone glowed brighter. The water rippled. A soft sound, like wind chimes, filled the air. Then a path appeared. Trees moved aside, revealing a soft glowing trail. You did it, Tamar whispered. No, Vera said. We did it. They followed the new path. The forest was calmer now. Flowers opened as they passed. Animals peeked from behind bushes, but did not run. As they walked, Tamar looked at Vera. How did you know what to do? My grandmother told stories, Vera said, about places that test spirit. She said only those who walk with clear hearts can pass. Tamar smiled. Your grandmother was wise. Vera nodded. She was. By late afternoon, they reached a tall rock wall. At the top was the ridge. They were almost there. Tamar looked up. It's steep. We climb, Vera said simply, with slow steps. They began the climb. Vera moved like a trained scout, even with her bad leg. Tamar used every hold carefully. Sweat dripped from his face. The jungle stretched below them like a green ocean. Halfway up, Tamar slipped. Vera caught his hand. Her grip was strong. She looked down at him with steady eyes. I have you. Tamar smiled weakly. You always do. They reached the top just before sunset. The view was wide and beautiful. Mountains stood in the distance. The sky was full of soft colors, pink, gold, and blue. Tamar pulled out his map device again. The screen blinked green. Signal found. Yes, he said. It's working. He activated the beacon. A small light on the device began to blink. Rescue signal sent, Tamar said. Now we wait. They sat on a flat rock. The wind was gentle. Stars began to appear. Vera looked at him. Today, we were tested. Tamar nodded. Yeah, that forest wasn't easy. But we passed, she said. Together. Tamar looked up at the stars. I'm glad you were with me. Vera was silent for a moment. Then she said, the forest saw your heart. It allowed us to pass. That means it accepted you? Tamar turned to her. And I accept you too, even if I don't fully understand all your ways. Vera gave a small, quiet smile. That is enough. The stars twinkled above. Somewhere out there, a rescue ship would come soon. But tonight, they sat on the ridge, side by side, human and alien, no longer strangers. They were still learning about each other, still growing. But one thing was sure, they were no longer lost. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the ridge. Tamar and Vera packed their few belongings and prepared to leave the jungle behind. The rescue signal had been sent, and Tamar hoped help would arrive soon. Still, the two travelers knew they needed to reach a nearby Thalani settlement before they could find a safe way home. The path down from the ridge was steep but clear. Tamar and Vera moved carefully, keeping their eyes open for any sign of danger. After a few hours, the dense trees began to thin, and the sounds of life grew louder. Birds sang, insects buzzed, and in the distance, Tamar could see small lights flickering between the trees. Look, Tamar said, pointing toward a cluster of simple buildings made from smooth stone and living wood. That must be the village. Vera nodded. Yes, this is the place my people call Rellies. As they approached the village, Vera's expression changed. She stood a little straighter and lifted her chin with pride. This is where my people live. I'm honored to bring you here. Tamar smiled, though he felt nervous. He had no idea how the Thelani would react to seeing him a human, especially after Vera's strange words about the bond between them. As they entered Relly's, villagers stopped their work and stared. The Thelani were tall, elegant beings with shimmering skin in shades of blue, green, and purple. Their eyes glowed softly, and their clothing was decorated with patterns that seemed to move in the light. Vera walked ahead of Tamar and announced loudly, "I return with my chosen partner." The crowd gasped. Some whispered to one another, while others bowed respectfully. An elder stepped forward. His skin was dark blue, and his eyes held the wisdom of many years. Vera, the elder, said with a kind voice, "You honor us with your return, and you bring a guest." Tamar stepped forward, trying to appear confident. "Hello, I'm Tamar. I'm a traveler from Earth. I didn't mean to cause trouble." The elder smiled gently. "No trouble, Tamar. The Thelani respect strength and kindness. We have heard of your journey." Vera took Tamar's hand and held it firmly. "He saved me during the season. That means our bond is real." Tamar felt warmth from her grip. He looked into her violet eyes and saw honesty and trust. Slowly, he realized this bond was more than a strange tradition. It was a promise. That evening, the village held a feast in their honor. Long tables were filled with strange but delicious fruits that glowed softly, breads that tasted sweet and spicy, and drinks that fizzed like sparkling water. Music filled the air, played on instruments made from crystal and wood. The next morning, a loud sound came from the sky. A ship broke through the clouds. It was large, white and blue, marked with Earth's emblem. The villagers gathered to watch it land outside the forest. Dust swirled as it touched the ground. A ramp opened, and human officers stepped out. Tamar's heart beat fast. He hadn't seen his people in weeks. He was happy but also unsure. A tall officer called out, "Explorer Tamar, we've come to bring you home." Tamar looked at Vera. She gave a small nod. "Go. Your journey is not over." He stepped forward, then paused. He turned back and placed his hand on his chest the same way Vera had done when they first met. "I will never forget this place," he said. "Or you?" Vera repeated the gesture. "And I will never forget you." Tamar walked to the ship. As he reached the ramp, he looked back one last time. Vera stood tall, her silver hair glowing in the sun, her pendant shining on her chest. He waved. She lifted her hand and waved back. The ship rose into the sky, leaving the jungle behind. But Tamar did not feel alone. He carried a part of that world with him, the lessons, the friendship, and the bond that started from a rescue and became something more. The Earth ship flew through space at high speed, leaving the green world of the Thelani behind. Inside the ship, Tamar sat near the window, looking out at the stars. His thoughts were far away, not on Earth, not on the mission, but on Vera. She had changed his life. When he first landed on her planet, he thought he was just lost. He had no idea he would meet someone like her, someone strong, brave, and honest, someone who saw more in him than he ever saw in himself. Tamar touched the pendant that hung around his neck. The soft crystal glowed faintly in the dark cabin. It was more than a gift, it was a symbol of the bond they had chosen. The ship's captain, a man named Rulo, walked up and sat beside him. "You've been quiet since we picked you up." Tamar nodded. "A lot has happened. I'm still thinking, Captain." Rulo smiled. "The Thelani are a noble people. Not many humans get to stay with them, and you bonded with one of their own. That's rare." Tamar didn't respond right away. He simply said, "She saved me, and I saved her. We're different, but we understand each other." The captain leaned back. "Do you think you'll ever see her again?" Tamar stared out at the stars. "I don't know, but I want to." Back on Earth, weeks passed. Tamar returned to Earth as a hero. The space agency celebrated his survival and shared his story with the world. Scientists were fascinated by the Thelani. Reporters asked questions. Books were written. But Tamar never told them everything. He kept some things private, like the long nights under alien stars, the laughter, the danger they faced together, and the way Vera stood beside him with quiet strength. He worked again at the Earth space station, helping with research and training. But life felt different. Earth was his home. Yet his heart often drifted to the green forests of Vera's world. Every evening, he walked to a quiet hill near the station. There, he sat under the open sky and looked at the stars. And every time he did, he remembered her. Far away, on Thelani world, Vira returned to her duties and rallies. Her people now treated her with more respect, not just because of the bond with Tamar, but because she had changed. She was more open, more thoughtful. She taught young Thelani about humans and their ways. She told them about how strength came not just from power, but from kindness, teamwork, and courage. She even started a small council of mixed learning, where Thelani could speak about forming friendships with outsiders. But in quiet moments, she stood near the pond and remembered the human who had made her laugh. She touched the pendant on her neck and whispered his name to the water. Tamar, the Messagione Day. Months later, Tamar sat in his lab on Earth. A quiet beep came from the communication terminal. He looked up. The signal was weak, but real. It was from Thelani's space. He opened the message. It was simple. The sky calls us together again. The trees remember your footsteps. I remember your words. If you wish to return, the path is open. Vira Tomar stood frozen. Then a smile grew slowly on his face. He walked out of the room, into the open air, and looked up at the sky. The stars had called him once. They were calling again. The journey back from mission was not easy to get. Earth and Thelani still had no formal alliance, but Tamar was trusted. He made a special request to travel alone, not as a soldier or explorer, but as a friend. After many talks, the leaders agreed. One ship, one passenger, one mission to return and build peaceful ties. Tamar packed lightly. He carried the same pendant, his old explorer suit, and a small recording of Earth's music Vera had once asked about human sounds. Now he would show her. As the ship launched, Tamar felt excitement rising in his chest, not just because he was going back, but because this time he was going by choice. Reunion ship landed near Relly's, just like before, but this time the village greeted him not with curiosity but with warm smiles. Vera stood waiting near the edge of the trees. She wore the same pendant, and her eyes sparkled in the sunlight. Tamar stepped down from the ramp and walked toward her. She didn't speak, neither did he. They just stood there, looking at each other, sharing a quiet moment filled with meaning. Then Vera smiled and said softly, "You came back." Tamar grinned. "I said I would." She nodded. "And now?" He looked around. "Now, I stay." The villagers clapped and welcomed him with open arms. A new home, a new path, had begun. A new beginning governed the next months. Tamar and Vera worked together. They helped humans and Thelani understand each other. They taught language, shared ideas, and built new ways to live side by side. They were not just symbols of two worlds. They were real people walking together, learning from one another. Sometimes they laughed about the old days, the crash, the strange misunderstanding of the bond, and the first awkward moments. Sometimes they sat in silence, just happy to be near. Tamar no longer wondered if he belonged. He knew. And Vera no longer stood alone under the stars. She had someone beside her. Their journey had started in confusion, but now it moved forward in peace, not as master and follower, not as hero and rescued, but as equals, as friends, and maybe, someday, something even more.